I want to talk to you about the Form 433F. And so here are the pro tips I want you to really pay attention to. So when we think about Form 433F, here is what you need to look at. So the form is actually called Collection Information Statement. So this is basically you providing context and data to the IRS when it comes to all kinds of information. So you have accounts, lines of credit. So we're speaking about your assets. So your current assets and your short-term assets, your long-term assets. And so you have so line A, you have accounts, lines of credit, so personal bank accounts, investments, virtual currency. So if you have crypto, you really still have to note it here. And so that's for assets. You also have real estate. So you can see that you have and then you have in C you have other assets. So you have three categories of assets. So again, I just want to reiterate it. You have accounts, lines of credit. So those are financial assets. You have real estate, so real property, and then you have other assets. In some cases, the IRS just wants you to list also your credit cards. So here we are speaking about Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Department of Stores, Discover, and so on and so forth. So you do have a flexibility here. One thing I want to see here is that when we talk about Form 433F, you need to really understand it's all about providing transparency to the IRS. And so you have to really put your social security number, or if you have a TIN, you want to provide it as well. And if you are filing this jointly, you want to provide information also for your spouse. So that will be your spouse's social security number or individual taxpayer identification number. So you do have flexibility here. One thing I want to say here is that when we talk about Form 433F, you have, and I'll speak about that later on. And so when I'm talking about personal bank accounts, you have to have the right number because the IRS will be checking that. You want to have the right number, and also for investments. So the brokerage accounts where you were holding the investment accounts, you have to really put that as well, and make sure that the social security that you have here, so your social actually matches the social that's actually listed on that account. And so to close the first part here, please just remember that you really can file this form electronically if you want, yes, but just make sure you have all the data. You back up everything. You actually save you save a copy for your records. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. I'm keep on here. I want you to look on the screen here. You have in part E, you have business information. So first, I spoke to you about your personal accounts, your personal assets. And if you have a business, whether it is a C corporation, an S corporation, or an LLC, or a partnership for that matter, you have to actually provide some information about the business. So here we are speaking about the balance sheet of the business. So here we have accounts receivable, accounts receivable, investments also. So you have to provide the name of an individual or a business on account, so the IRS can really trace all the info back and forth. And also, if there's a credit card, then you have to provide that, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, etc. You have to provide that also. And again, we are speaking here strictly about the business. So this is about business information. So that's line E. Line F, you have employment information. So if you have more than one employer, you want to include the information on another sheet of paper. Again, here I'm just showing you this form 433F. So we are just how the form looks like. But if you have specific questions about your case, let us know. And so when we talk about employment information, again, we have to be granular. So you have to provide weekly data or bi-weekly data or semi-monthly data or monthly data when it comes to your income. And so line G here, we have a non-wage household income. So if this is applicable to you, here basically what the IRS wants, the IRS wants to have things like alimony income, child support income, net self-employment income, if those are applicable to you, net rental income also, unemployment income, pension income, interest, dividends income, social security income. So again, if you have other sources of income that are not listed here, you put it in the other section. So on the line titled other. And the final line here, this is a line H, monthly necessary living expenses. So again, here you provide you give the IRS an idea about your cost of living. So we're speaking about food, things like food, transportation, housing and utilities, medical, and others. So this can be anything around your children or just to maintain a livable household. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 433F. Let me give you the overview here. So when we talk about Form 433F, basically this is a form that really allows you to provide collection information to the IRS. And so Form 33F is actually a financial statement used by the IRS to actually collect information about your assets or about your financial situation, or also about your business's financial situation in order to evaluate your ability to pay outstanding tax debt. Because see, the thing is that you're providing all kinds of information to the IRS because the IRS just wants to make sure when you telling the agency that you can't pay your tax obligation, that you indeed are in a capacity not to pay your tax obligation. In other words, you don't have the money to pay your tax obligations. So the IRS just wants to make sure. That's why they are going so they are trying to be so detailed, so thorough, so granular when it comes to your financial situation. So you got to provide all kinds of details, right? So we're talking about details about your employment, sources of income, bank accounts, real estate, vehicles, and other assets. And additionally, you must provide, as you saw a little earlier, you must provide information about your monthly living expenses so that the IRS knows exactly what's really happening in your life. Okay, that's literally what it is. So we're talking here about housing, utilities, transportations, medical costs, and everything. And one thing I want to say here is that when we talk about Form 433F, when you file this form, you actually can enjoy several benefits. You establish a repayment plan. So in other words, you're giving the IRS a clear idea about your financial capacity. So the IRS can actually set a payment plan based on the financial evaluation. You also are able to avoid collection actions. You can reduce penalties and interest. So while interest and penalties may still apply, entering into a formal payment arrangement through Form 433F can potentially reduce the overall amount owed. So by demonstrating a good faith effort to resolve the tax debt, you may qualify for penalty abatement or other forms of relief. You also have protection of assets. So when you cooperate with the IRS through, after submitting this Form 433F, you can protect certain assets from being seized to satisfy the tax debt. So the IRS may be more inclined to work with you if you are proactive in resolving your tax issues instead of resorting to aggressive collection actions. Okay, so you are able to resolve tax issues proactively, and that's what you need. That's what you want to have. You want to be in a situation where you are resolving tax issues proactively. Okay, so you must file Form 433F. Basically, if you owe taxes to the IRS and you are unable to pay the full amount. Now let's talk about the steps that you need to really take here when it comes to filing Form 433F. Now, basically, you need to obtain the form itself, so make sure that you get the latest version of the form. So, or you can call the IRS helpline at 1-800-829-1040. So you want to provide personal information. So we're speaking about all kinds of information to give the IRS context about your financial situation. And so you need to fill out the financial sections, everything that relates to your financial situation. We're speaking about your balance sheet. We are speaking about your income statement. So your balance sheet, your assets, your liabilities, your owner's equity, so your net worth. You want to provide information about your income. So we are speaking here about your employment wages, self-employment income, rental income, retirement benefits, and any other sources of income that you receive, right? So when we talk about income, we are also talking about expenses. So because you are trying to contextualize your situation. You're trying to give an idea to the IRS about what's really happening in your life, financially speaking. So also don't forget to provide other financial information. So if you have outstanding loans, credit card debts, and other financial obligations that you have, you want to say that here as well. And so once you do all this, you're pretty set. You're giving the IRS everything that the agency needs. And but the bottom line here is that when you give information, do not forget to provide supporting documentation. So you want to attach relevant documents such as pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns, loan statements, and any other documentation that verifies your income, expenses, and assets. Again, it's all about being upfront, about being transparent, and having a good faith effort to actually show the government that you are willing to settle the debt. So when you do all of these things, don't forget to review and sign the form, okay? And so the bottom line here is you want to tell the IRS, hey, listen, you're certifying that the information is actually accurate as of the date of the signature. And once you're done, just submit the form and just wait for the government to review your form 433F and either approve it, ask additional questions, or decline it. Well, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 433F. I want to talk to you about schedules and deductions for Form 433F. I mean, this is a form that's pretty convoluted, but so the IRS just wants to make sure that it has a clear idea about your financial life, about your financial situation, if you will, okay? And so you have a constellation of schedules to really consider when it comes to Form 433F. So you have Schedule A, so that's actually real estate. Schedule B, personal property. Schedule C, wage and salary. Schedule D, self-employment income. Schedule E, other income. So that's basically on the positive side of your balance sheet. Then you have the negative side. So you have expenses, and if you have financial accounts, so credit card accounts, brokerage accounts, and Schedule G actually is the installment agreement. Schedule H, financial accounts. Schedule I, trust fund recovery penalty. And Schedule J, joint debtor. So joint debtor is actually is important to really talk about when you are filing this form jointly. So let's say you are married and you just want to make sure that your spouse is also part of the whole equation. Okay. So now so that's for schedules. You also have deductions. So there are deductions on Form 433F. So you have so those are expenses. And when we talk about expenses, we are speaking about housing and utilities expenses, for instance. You have vehicle operation expenses. You have health insurance premiums. You have child care expenses. You have court-ordered payments. So this can be alimony, child support, and other necessary living expenses. So one thing I want to say here is that your situation might be more convoluted than others. It's always important, if you have any question, to reach out to a specialist, or you can just ask us in the comment section, and which certainly will answer you. But it's one of those things where you want to be as granular as possible. You want to be as detailed as possible so that the IRS can have a clear idea whether or not you can pay your tax debts or not. I mean, because if you're saying you can't pay, you have to prove it. Let me talk to you about some common errors that you need to avoid while filing Form 433F. Now, Form 433F is pretty comprehensive. You saw that, I gave you a list of all the schedules that are applicable to this form. And so it's one of those things where make sure that you do not have incomplete or missing information. So you want to fill out all important details. You want to provide complete information so that you can have so your form can actually be approved, because the last thing you want is to have delays or rejections. And you also want to have correct calculations, so you want to double check all your calculations to ensure accuracy. So errors in income, expenses, or asset valuations can raise red flags and may result in additional scrutiny or incorrect determination of your ability to pay. Remember that the IRS is paying close attention to whatever data you are submitting to the agency, so to be able to see whether or not you can qualify for the specific benefits you are asking for. And also make sure that your information is consistent. So you want to be consistent with the information that you provide on Form 433F. You want to cross-check your income, expenses, and asset values to ensure they align with supporting documentation like pay stubs, bank statements, and tax returns. Okay. and also neglecting to attach supporting documentation. So Form 433F requires supporting documentation to substantiate the information provided. So you want to give necessary documents like tax returns, bank statements, and proof of expenses, so that you can actually have your Form 433F processed as fast as possible. And also, you want to also review the entire form before submitting. That's really important. So we're talking about you carefully reviewing your completed Form 433F before submitting it to the IRS. You want to look for any errors, omissions, or inconsistencies, and you want to take the time to review the form so that you can actually prevent unnecessary issues. Okay, and please do not actually miss the deadline. Ensure that you submit your Form 433F by the designated deadline, and so that way you can actually avoid penalties and possible fees and extra interest as well. This is kind of important. It's pretty straightforward, nothing really complicated here. So Form 433F, you have the ability to file this form electronically, not a problem. So if you have the latest tax software, TurboTax, you can have H&R Block, Justin Hewitt, and so on and so forth, TaxSlayer, and what have you. You are able to file this form electronically. So you can go, or you can just go to the IRS website. The IRS has a series of providers. They call it MEF providers. So this is like a modernized e-file providers. So you are able to file through the IRS website. You can file electronically as well, but this is not happening through a software tool. It's happening through a platform. It's happening through an MEF, modernized e-file provider. And so you can also file offline. If you feel like, you do not want to really talk about anything else, just file offline, not a problem. File manually, not a problem. Now, one thing I want to say here is that when we talk about this form 433F, everything that you provide on the form has to be accurate. You have to double check just to make sure that, the accuracy is really important. And also, if you have any doubts, it's always important to have the backup. So to have the records, the form, the whatever, the schedules or the statements, the bank statements or whatever. And one thing I want to say overall here is that when you actually file online, basically you have the ability to, there is a tool called the Online Payment Agreement, so the OPA agreement. So basically you are able to apply for an installment agreement and provide some financial information through the IRS, so that you are able to streamline the whole process and reduce the need for you to file this form manually. Okay, so just go to the IRS websites. The whole platform is called the OPA, so it's an OPA application, so Online Payment Agreement. And so you are able to really follow the procedures, the latest procedures, and get your Form 433F approved ASAP. But bottom line is, whatever you submit to the IRS, please keep a copy for yourself. You want to keep a copy for yourself, because you never know if, God forbid, something were to happen in the future, and you want to have a clear idea what you submitted to the IRS in the first place. You can really go back to the documentation you submitted to the agency, and really at least have a clear idea about what really happened. And this could be really helpful also if you are ever audited. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. Let's quickly do a recap of today's conversation. So I talked to you about Form 433F, and I gave you the pro tips, the overview, the steps, and now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.